Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the 2024 Summer of Lovecraft. After our last game of Space Month and Gaia Project last week, we're all set now to start the proper leg of the 2024 Summer of Lovecraft. The first leg of the play after the play-in game is Eldritch Horror from Fantasy Flight Studios. Our goal here is to solve some number of mysteries before the Ancient One wakes up. First up, let's meet our adversary in the Summer of Lovecraft, and we'll talk about our prelude that we're playing today, but our adversary is Azathoth, so let's meet him in Eldritch Horror. Here's our Ancient One, Azathoth, otherwise known as the Daemon Sultan. When the Omen advances to the green space of the Omen track, advance Doom by 1 for each Eldritch token on that space. When 3 mysteries have been solved, investigators win the game. When Azathoth awakens, flip this sheet and resolve the world is devoured effect on the back. The idiot god sits at the center of all things, spreading madness and death. Its seeds descend from the stars, threatening to crack the world in half. The world devours is why our normal penalty for losing a game in the Summer of Lovecraft won't be in effect this year. We'll have enough problems having to replace all of our investigators if we end up losing either Game of Eldritch Horror or Arkham Horror 2nd Edition. As far as setup, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track, which I did that when I did setup last night. And cultists are a straight will test. You need 1 sanity to not lose health. After resolving the will test, you lose 1 health and defeat the monster. Our prelude that we're playing with today is Unwilling Sacrifice. You didn't see the faces of the men who took you in the black of night, but you can see the face of another who shares your fate. Bound and gagged, the other victim lies helpless on the stone altar beside you. A black-robed figure prepares to drive a jeweled jet dagger into the victim's heart. With the cultist distracted, you think you could escape, but could you really do so in good conscience? Nay. As the blade comes down, adrenaline surges through your body, and you slip from your restraints. You throw yourself between the robed assailant and his victim. The blade sinks into the flesh of your shoulder, missing your heart by mere inches. You wrench the dagger free from your wounded shoulder, and after subduing the cultist, you free your grateful companion. Those who did this to you will pay in kind, that much is certain. After resolving setup, each investigator may spend 2 health to gain 1 character unique asset. We have a little bit to do yet at the board as per usual, so we'll resolve that at that time. Anyway, that's our Ancient One and today's prelude. Let's go meet the team, and after the dreadful performance I had during Christmas in Arkham last year, you won't be surprised to hear that I'm bringing out the heavy artillery, so let's go meet the heavy artillery. Our first investigator on the team is Agnes Baker, the waitress. We can see her stat lines there: 4 lore, 3 influence, 2 observation, 2 strength, 2 will. 7 health, 5 sanity. And as her component action, test lore -1. If you pass, gain 1 spell. You may spend 1 health to roll 2 additional dice when resolving a lore test as part of a spell effect. I remember another life, one of sorcery and conquest. Before we flip this over, go through Agnes's introductory personal stories and personal possessions, starting possessions. I do want to mention that when an item gives you... I do want to mention a difference that's probably going to come up in this game. So when an item gives you a bonus, like say something gives you, say you have multiple items that give you plus, we'll use lore as an example. You have an item that gives you have items that give you +2, +4, and let's say +3. Those wouldn't all stack to give you +9. You would only get the highest of those on a skill test involving lore. However, when something says roll additional dice like Agnes's special ability does, you would get all of those bonuses. So if you have multiple items that say roll 1 additional dice, yada, 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 and then a special ability that says roll 2 additional dice, you would get all of those dice. So that is a small difference that I wanted to make sure to clarify before we went too far. Anyway, let's take a look at Agnes's introductory story first. Pretend that the text on this side doesn't exist for the time being, so we're only looking here. Once, Agnes lived quietly, taking orders and serving up food at a diner in Arkham. But one night, she fell from a ladder, striking her head. After that, she could recall a past life as a sorceress in the ancient world of Hyperborea. Her mind flooded with memories of arcane lore. Amazed by this new magical knowledge, Agnes has traveled to London to learn more about Hyperborea, but is she driven by her own curiosity or compelled by the will of her former self? Well, we'll find that out soon enough. As for her personal story, in a past life, you try to recall the memories of your past self, but it seems that only in the heat of battle do you draw enough arcane energy to trigger them. When you defeat a non-epic monster during a combat encounter, place that monster on this card. Then, if the total toughness of monsters on this card is 10 or greater, discard this card and gain the Blood Awakened reward. When you have only 1 health, discard this card and gain the History Repeats consequence. And then for her starting possessions, Agnes starts off with a Profane Tome. You may reroll 1 die when resolving a will test during a combat encounter. And Storm of Spirits. When resolving a combat encounter, you may resolve a lore test in place of the strength test using the same modifier. If you do, flip. I know I said I was going to resolve it after setup, but I think it's going to be a little bit easier to deal with the prelude as we're going through each investigator. So Agnes will spend 2 of her health to gain a character unique asset. I've got the ally unique assets right here. I'll give these a shuffle, and then we'll go until we find a character asset for Agnes. All right, then we'll pull from the bottom until we find a character. Oh, God. Professor Morgan. Actually, that's the back. So, yep, it'll be the same on either side. When you gain this card from the deck, gain 2 task unique assets, then discard 1 of them. When another effect causes you to place a token on a task asset, place 1 additional token of that type on that card. So now we need 2 task assets. Another nice thing about my laptop is I can pull up the spreadsheet and use that. So we need formulas, calculate now. So the first one we have is Turning the Tide. That'll send me into my binder. I'm just shuffling up these. I'll just shuffle these up real quick. There's only so much I can do with a 3-card shuffle, of course. Turning the Tide. At the end of the Mythos phase, if Doom advanced this round or the Ancient One awakened, you may spend clues equal to half the number of investigators to flip, aka 2. For her second task, Agnes gets Light of Reason. Look at that, right next to it. Again, a crappy 3-card shuffle. There's only so much we can do with that. Light of Reason. Whenever you gain a clue during a research encounter, you may spend 1 clue to place 1 clue on this card, then you may flip. Generally, when I'm going for clues in this game, I'm usually going for them as part of a mystery, so I'm going to discard Light of Reason and we're going to keep Turning the Tide. So that will be the task asset that Agnes gets from Professor Morgan. Now let's move over, and that'll do it for Agnes. Now let's move over and meet the second character in our team this year. If you were around for the stream that Jester and I did last night on Arkham Horror the card game, then you'll probably recognize this lovely lady, as we've got Jenny Barnes the Dilettante joining the team for this year's Summer of Lovecraft as well. She has 1 lore, 4 influence, 2 observation, 3 strength, and 3 will. 7 health and 5 sanity, so she will also be spending 2 health to get a character unique asset. Her component action, you or another investigator on a city space may perform an acquire assets action and gain +2 influence during that action. And once per round, when you or another investigator gains a debt condition, that investigator may discard that condition. My sister was taken. I will pay any amount to save her. You're going to hear me throw around the term debt wipe a lot in this video. That's what I'm that Jenny's passive is what I'm talking about there. So the once per round, when Jenny or another investigator gains a debt condition, that investigator may discard. So let's go through her introductory story as well. Born to wealth and privilege, Jenny has spent most of her young life in the most fashionable nightclubs around the world. But her life of decadence came to an abrupt halt when she received an ominous letter from her sister Isabel. In the letter, Isabel reported being followed by mysterious men wearing hoods and robes. When Jenny investigated, she learned that her sister had been kidnapped to an island in the Caribbean. Jenny will use her wealth and international connections to find Isabel and punish the men who took her. And her personal story is going to reflect that. Searching for Isabel. Izzy is a smart girl. She's okay. At least, that's what you keep telling yourself. Still, you have to find her. And fast. When you gain this card, place 3 random clues face up on this card. After resolving an encounter on one of those spaces, discard that clue. Then, if there are no clues on this card, discard this card and gain the Isabel reward. When Doom advances to 6 or lower, discard this card and gain the too late consequence. So we will draw the clues in a second. Before I do that, though, I'm going to take, this is normally used as a rumor marker, but I'm going to take that over to the board, set it on 6 Doom just to remind myself that something's going to go sideways when we get to 6 Doom. And that actually lets me grab the clue bag as well, so I can pull our 3 random clue tokens that we need for search for Isabel. And 1, 2, 3. Alright, so these are the 3 clues that Jenny's going to have to go find. We've got the Amazon, San Francisco, and Antarctica. So not a terrible spread here, if I'm being perfectly honest. In fact, we could probably go get one of them coming up this round, or this first round, if we wanted to. We could probably go get San Francisco out of the way right away, which is not a terrible idea, I don't think. Anywho, oh, we need to go through Jenny's possessions. She's also got a ship ticket, which is how we can possibly go get the San Francisco encounter out of the way, because we can spend that for an extra move along a ship path. As for other starting possessions, we've got fine jewelry. You may add 1 to the result of 1 die when performing an influence test during an acquire assets action. Put that back in there. And then the 25 automatic will let Jenny roll an additional die when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter. Once we put that back in, there we go. And like Agnes, Jenny will also spend 2 health to gain a character unique asset. And we've shuffled this up already for Agnes, so we'll just pull from the bottom. And we see that Jenny saved Randolph Carter, and hopefully Randolph Carter won't be such a treacherous SOB this time, because if you also remember during the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, Randolph actually turned his back on Jenny and stabbed. Actually, no, he hadn't been. Never mind. Forget I said anything about that. But he actually had been cast off and killed right before Jenny and Luke found themselves before the gates of Kadath. Anywho, Randolph Carter gained +2 lore and +2 will. Once per round during the action phase, you may reveal the top card in the gate stack. If you do, you may put it on the bottom. So that will help Jenny out a bit. I'm kind of tempted to pass her over to Agnes potentially for the additional lore for her Storm of Spirits, but we'll think about that a little bit later. That's it for Jenny. Now let's move down to our third investigator. Our third investigator in this year's Summer of Lovecraft is Carolyn Fern, the psychologist. 2 lore, 3 influence, 2 observation, 2 strength, 4 will. 5 health and 7 sanity, so it might be a little bit more precious, but Carolyn probably will spend as well. As for her component action, actually it's a little hard to read, so let me pull it up. You or another investigator on your space may discard 1 madness condition and or perform a rest action. When you or another investigator on your space performs a rest action, that investigator may recover 1 additional sanity. The mad deserve peace of mind, not death of the spirit. Flipping her card over. When Carolyn Fern's latest patient, Malachi, told her of his troubled nightmares, she never expected that he would turn up dead the very next day, murdered by the very weapon of which he dreamed. A gifted psychologist and skilled in the art of hypnosis, Carolyn has been following clues Malachi left in his diary across 2 continents. Convinced that Malachi's death is in some way connected to the growing unrest in the world, she is determined to uncover the truth that lies behind the murder of her former patient. Speaking of Malachi, her personal story takes us into that as well, as we've got final analysis. You look deeper into Malachi's murder, refusing to let it lie. Once per round, when another investigator on your space performs a rest action, spawn 1 clue. Then, if there is a total number of clues in an investigator's possession and or on the game board equal to or greater than twice the number of investigators, discard this card and gain the missing link reward. When another investigator is defeated with 0 sanity, discard this card and gain the growing unrest consequence. And then for starting possessions, Carolyn has the Death 13 unique asset. When a mystery is solved, retreat doom by 1. In addition to the Dream Diary, gain +1 lore during otherworld encounters, and when you perform a rest action, spawn 1 clue. Carolyn will also spend 2 health. She'll need to rest right away, most likely, but she'll gain a character asset, which Henry Wilcox will work for that. Okay. You and other investigators in your space roll 1 additional die when resolving tests during otherworld encounters. After resolving an otherworld encounter, if you did not close the gate, gain 1 clue. So it's basically like a consolation prize if you fail to close a gate during an otherworld encounter. But that's it for Carolyn. Now let's go meet our last investigator. Our last investigator starting the team for the 2024 Summer of Lovecraft is Trish Scarborough, the spy. 1 lore, 3 influence, 4 observation, 3 strength, 2 will. 7 health and 5 sanity. Her component action: if you don't have any clues, gain a clue. If an investigator on your space spends a clue to reroll a die, she may reroll up to 2 dice instead. We lie all the time, but the truth is in there. You just have to know how to decode people. Looking at the back of her card. Everyone expected great things from Trish when she was young. In school, she excelled in athletics and the sciences, but she surprised everyone after graduation by settling into a humble position at a commercial code company. What almost no one knows is that this particular company is a front for the Bureau's code-breaking agency, the Black Chamber. Now she finds herself in the city of Krasnoyarsk, meeting another agent who has important information about an impending threat from a world beyond our own. Doesn't get much more impending than the blind idiot god. Her personal story is all about trying to crack the code. Letters and numbers flash and rearrange before your eyes as you scan the cryptic message. Transpose this to here, substitute and adjust by the previous character. The truth of the words might be a mystery to you for now, but they will not be for long. They never are. When a mystery is solved, discard this card and gain the Breaking the Limits reward. When Doom advances to 6 or lower, discard this card and gain the Shadows consequence. And she starts off with a 45 automatic. Gain +3 strength during combat encounters. And like the other 3 ladies, Trish will also spend 2 health to gain a character. So we'll take from the back once again. And we'll find Jack Brady. Ooh. When you gain this card from the deck, gain 3 clues. After resolving an expedition encounter or a Mystic Ruins encounter, gain 1 relic unique asset. So I'll get the 3 clues out for Trish for that. And that'll give us a nice jump in clues toward Carolyn's personal story. One, two, three. Okay. Oop, and I just dropped one of them. All right. 3 clues for Trish. So we are all set there. Now let's move over to the board, and we need to finish up a little bit of setup. All right, Doom is up at 15 where it starts with Azathoth, and I put a reminder marker at 6 Doom because Jenny and Trish will fail their personal stories at that point. The Omen token is on the green comet to start with, and we need our first 4 cards in the reserve. So first up we find Seek the Truth, a task for 1. Whenever you gain a clue during a research encounter, spawn 1 clue. Then you may spend 3 clues and discard this card to advance the active mystery by 1. Next up is a Witch Doctor for 3. Investigators on your space may recover 1 additional health or discard a cursed condition when performing a rest action. That could be useful. Next up, Appeal to the Council. When you gain this card, you may immediately spend 2 clues to retreat Doom by 1, then discard this card. And an Arcanist. When you gain this card for 3, when you gain this card from the deck or reserve, gain 2 spells, then discard 1 of them. Roll 1 additional die when resolving a lore test as part of a spell effect. That could be good if we can get that into Agnes's hands as quickly as we can. Then we spawn gates, so we need 1 gate. Our first gate is up at the Himalayas, out in the middle of nowhere, and it's a red gate, so we don't need to be careful of that for the time being. Our monster that goes with it we have a Bayaki with it. Straight Will, need 1 success to not lose sanity. Straight Strength, need 2 toughness to not lose health, 2 toughness to kill it. If you defeat this monster during a combat encounter, you may lose 1 sanity and move 3 spaces instead of resolving another encounter. So that will go to the Himalayas, out in the middle of nowhere. All right, the active expedition is... We'll give this deck a quick shuffle. Even though I shuffled it up last night, we'll just give it another quick shuffle. And a cut. And the expedition is in Arkham. Which it could be tempting to send either Jenny or Agnes after that right away. Then we spawn 2 clues, so we're going to be up to 5 already toward Carolyn's personal story. So there are 2 clues. They are going to spaces 7 and 20. 7 is also accessible to Jenny. 20 is all the way down here in what looks like Indonesia. And then we draw a mystery, and this will be our first mystery that we have to deal with for Azathoth. So we've got all of our mysteries for Azathoth right here. We'll give this a quick little shuffle. And a cut, and there's our first mystery of the game. So first up we have Seed of the Daemon Sultan. A strange green comet has fallen from the sky. Even after the impact, the meteorite continues to slowly burrow itself deeper into the earth. When this card enters play, place the mystery token on Tunguska. As an encounter, An investigator on Tunguska may attempt to search for signs of the impact in the dead forest. Observation. If she passes, she discovers the strange green meteorite. She may spend 2 clues to place 1 Eldritch token on this card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half the investigators, solve this mystery. So we need 2 of them, and Trish A already has 3 clues, and B is right there by Tunguska. So we'll get the mystery token out for that, which is the question mark. So that is going to Tunguska, and that's where we need to be. So that is everything set up, which means we're all set to get into this game. So our first investigator will be... Who will it be? I think it's going to be Agnes, so let's move down. Let's move down to Agnes. Surprisingly, it looks like I can get everybody in shot here, which is fine because I don't think we're going to be doing too much for movement. So I'm going to have, we're going to go, I guess we'll go 3 to Carolyn, 4 to Trish. So Agnes is going to rest to recover some of that health, and she's going to take a focus. That's Agnes done. Jenny is going to move 1, 2 over to San Francisco, spending her ship ticket, and then she too will gain a, is she going to focus or rest? I think she's going to focus. As for Carolyn, she will also rest and take a focus. And Trish, say it with me, kids. She's going to rest and she's going to focus. That's why I was so okay with the idea of everybody spending 2 health, because I was expecting their first turns were going to be spent resting. I'm just swapping out the Eldritch tokens that I'm using because I've got fancy ones by your command. As always, component links will be in the description down below. Anyway, that's it for a very quick action phase. Now let's go into the encounter phase, and I think we can get everybody in shot once again. Looks like we can get everybody in shot. So first up will be Agnes. She'll be having a Europe encounter in London. So let's see what she's getting up to. London. The SIS detain you on charges of espionage and interrogate you at length. Will. Oh joy. Her will right now is 2. Oop. So we need a 5 or a 6 on a normal test to pass a skill test. Which we've got a 3 and a 1 in there, so that's not great. I think we will spend the focus. And we still fail that, which is unfortunate. If you fail, lose 1 sanity and gain a detained condition. Oh, great. So Agnes is now down to 4 sanity, and she's got a detained condition, which I'm pretty sure is going to be in the binder. Yep, here we are. Great. Not the way I wanted to be starting this game, Agnes. Detained. You can't move or perform actions other than the action on this card. Instead of resolving an encounter, flip this card. Local action, test influence. If you pass, discard this card. Joy, joy. Jenny's up next, and she's in San Francisco, which is one of her encounters for searching for Izzy. So her encounter. Elephants have escaped from the Golden Gate Park. You offer to help subdue them using strength. Jenny's strength is 3, so maybe... Where's the lid? Here we are. And we pass with flying colors. If you pass, the Grateful Keepers share stories about hunting and tracking. Improve observation. Nice. Which means Jenny gets one of these. One of these handy dandy improve observation tokens, also by your command. Link to which will be link to their Etsy store will be in the description down below. Carolyn is in Rome, so that's another Europe encounter. Let's see what Carolyn's getting up to this round. A stranger wants to sell you an unknown painting by Salvatore Rosa. Influence. Carolyn's influence is a 3, which might be handy if we want to try to use influence to break Agnes out. And we pass. If you pass, the image of overcoming horrors inspires you. Improve will and one other skill of your choice. Ooh. So Carolyn will improve will and... let's go for influence. So there are our will and influence improvement tokens going to Carolyn. And then Trish has a generic city encounter over by Tunguska. So let's see what she's doing. I believe that's a city space, right? Yes, city space. All right. A stranger at a bank owes a large sum. You offer to help, influence -1. Trish's influence is 2, so everybody but Agnes has faced an influence test this round. Hopefully that will be helpful for us. Trish also has a focus that she can spend to reroll if she needs to. Which she does not. If you pass, the grateful stranger vows to aid in your struggles. Gain 1 character unique asset. Nice! We're just getting all the character unique assets. So once again, we'll pull from the bottom and we'll find... Come on. Dr. Hiram Upshaw. When you gain this card from the deck, gain 2 clues. Oh my. Action, you may spend 2 clues to discard 1 monster of your choice on a space containing a gate. So that goes to Trish, and she gets 2 more clues, which I think I know where Trish is going next. There are the 2 clues. Those will go to Trish. And then that will do it for the encounter phase. Let's move back up top. Actually, before speaking of clues, since Jenny had an encounter in San Francisco, that clue is discarded. Now let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. As a quick aside before we see what the Deck of Doom is doing to us this time around, I do want to mention that the way you're hearing Let's Move and we've got the next phase coming up, I talked about streaming content during Pinot with Phoenix back on Wednesday about what kind of games would make good streaming content. This is not a game that would make good streaming content, at least not the cards and dice like I'm playing here. TTS, it's not as big a problem. But given that but you're seeing already camera cuts, you're hearing Let's Move, so this is not a game, at least in this incarnation, that makes good streaming content. Anyway, ramble over. Now let's see what the Deck of Doom is doing. Giving us a rumor right off the bat. So we spawn clues. And that's going to be 2 clues. So we've got spaces 18 and 13. 18 down here by Antarctica. 13 is Hyperbrea up by Agnes. And this rumor is going to Antarctica. It'll get 3 Eldritch tokens in a second, but first up, astronomers in the southern hemisphere have begun to see radical changes in the stars. Constellations have become completely unrecognizable. Reports from Antarctica describe seeing a second moon. Transported to the Hyades, ongoing rumor. As an encounter, an investigator on Antarctica may search for the herds of Byakhee that inhabit the place. Influence or observation -1. If she passes, she may spend clues equal to half the investigators to solve this rumor. When there are no Eldritch tokens on this card, each investigator loses 2 and 2, impairs a skill of her choice, and gains an injury condition, a madness condition, and a bane. Then solve this rumor. On a reckoning, discard 1 Eldritch token from this card. So we'll put that down by Antarctica. We'll put 3 Eldritch tokens on it. And that was a relatively uneventful Mythos phase. We're into the investigation phase, or not the investigation phase, the action phase next, which is the start of a new round. And I think our first investigator this time around will be... I think it's going to be Trish this time, so let's move over to Central Russia. Trish now has enough clues, in theory, to solve the mystery herself. So for action 1, she's going to move over to Tunguska, and then action 2, she's going to take another focus. Looks like we've got Carolyn in shot as well, so she'll be our second investigator. She's going to move up to Rome, and then she's going to take the local action for Agnes to try to get rid of Agnes's detained. So we need 4 dice for Carolyn's influence, because remember, she improved Agnes's, what's the word I want? Carolyn improved her influence, so we're trying to use that to get rid of Agnes's detained. Which we do with a 6, very nicely done, Carolyn. So Carolyn's all done there. Which means Agnes will now, I think Agnes will be our third investigator, since she's right here in shop. So Agnes she will take a focus, and we've just barely got it in shop, and I'm going to send Agnes over to Arkham to work on the expedition encounter. That'll do it for Agnes, our last investigator. Let's move over to Jenny. For action 1, Jenny's going to move down to space 7, and then since that is still a city space, Jenny's going to use a component action on herself to acquire assets with +2 influence. So she's got an influence right now of 6, and the debt wipe has not been used once yet. Let's see, we've got 3 successes in there right now. The fine jewelry isn't going to do anything because that'll turn one of the 3s into a 4, but a 4 still isn't good enough to acquire anything. So I think the debt wipe is still going to be worth it to give us the Arcanist and Seek the Truth. I'm taking the Arcanist with the idea of passing that and the spell off to Agnes as fast as I can. So, moving over to the spell selector, I need 2 spells for that. So first up, we've got an Azure Flame. Which will give that a quick shuffle. It's a glamour spell, which I don't like. Each 6 when you roll when resolving a strength test as during a combat encounter counts as 2 successes. Reckoning, test lore, and flip. That lets me use lore in place of the strength, so I don't know if that would count for combat, for lore tests. And Wither, which is an incantation. Wither. Spell incantation. When resolving a combat encounter, you may test lore. If you pass, gain +3 strength during that encounter, then flip. I think we're going to keep the Wither. Mainly because I don't like Azure Flame. Well, I don't like glamour spells to begin with, even if Azure Flame is a pretty good one. But if I think I'm going to be passing the spell off, then I don't really want. I want to make sure that I can actually keep the spell to pass it off, and I don't trust the ability of Jenny to survive a Reckoning test with a glamour spell in her hand. So that's why we're going to give her the Wither instead of the Azure Flame. That'll do it for Jenny. That'll do it for the action phase. Into the encounter phase, let's go say hello first to Trish and Carolyn. We can get everybody in shot here for this encounter phase. So as Trish's encounter, she's going to encounter the mystery on Tunguska, which is, again, is an observation test. So I thought it was observation -1. It's actually straight observation. So Trish will go ahead and roll for that. She'll pass, which will let her spend 2 clues to put an Eldritch token on the mystery. So that can go on the mystery, and we're all set there. Carolyn is in London, so she's going to be having a Europe encounter. Let's see what she's getting up to this turn. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle tells you of his interest in spiritualism around the world. His stories sound dubious, but somehow familiar. Lore -1. Carolyn's lore is a 2, -1 is a 1. Give me that 5. Always re-roll your successes, kids. We'll spend the focus. And we succeed. There we go. All right. If you pass, you discern which tales are genuine. Spawn 2 clues. So we'll spawn 2 clues out of this. We are spawning at space 16 in Istanbul. Space 16 is back where Trish started, so we're going to have to move the dice tower. We'll put it down. I don't want to cover Jenny with this, so actually we can put it down there. That'll work. Space 16 back where Trish started, and the dice tower is covering Istanbul. Actually, we can get the clue out of the way, and you can see it might be a little hard to see in shot, but here's the clue over in Istanbul. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clues on the board. So if we can get Carolyn together with somebody to rest this turn, probably Agnes, we can clear Carolyn's personal story just like that. And then Agnes will have an expedition encounter, since that's why we moved her over to Arkham. All right. You travel to a collection of tower... Actually, this is Buenos Aires. Never mind. I can't tell location, so I'm actually going to reshuffle that, since I inadvertently flipped the deck over. If this is Arkham, we're still going to have the expedition encounter. If it's not Arkham, then we're going to have an Arkham encounter. Whoops. That was a herpaderp on my part. There's the cut, and the expedition is actually Sydney. So we are going to have an Arkham encounter instead. Once it decides to focus. There we go. One of the stained glass windows in the South Church features an angel reading strange runes from a scroll. The runes look familiar to you. Lore. Oh, we need to replace from Jenny's acquire assets. I don't know how I didn't remember that. So first up, Jenny will find a puzzle box for 3. When you perform a rest action, you may attempt to open the puzzle box. Observation -2. If you pass, you may discard this card to gain 1 artifact. And Holy Cross for 2 success for 2. Gain +2 will during combat encounters. Okay, coming back to Agnes, we need 4 dice for a lore test to see if she, well, I'm not going to spoil what the reward is. Which we will get, so let's take a look. If you pass, gain 1 incantation spell. Alright, so an incantation spell for Agnes. We already have a Wither. Binding we can have. Actually, we'll just do it like that. I was going to shuffle them up, but... Binding, spell incantation. When you or another investigator on any space resolves a combat encounter, you may test lore. If you pass, reduce that monster's damage to 1 during that encounter, then flip. That could be very useful against epic monsters. But I'm getting more than a little ahead of myself there. Jenny will have a clue encounter with the clue on Space 7, which looks to be Bogota. So we need a city encounter here. All right. A team of geologists have discovered after studying a chunk of rock, have disappeared after studying a chunk of rock that was retrieved from a nearby crater. You visit their lab and feel waves of strange energy emanating from the stone, eroding your body from the inside. Strength. Jenny's strength is a 3, so hopefully we can pass this test. Yep. And we do. There's a 6 hiding in there. If you pass, you safely examine the green stone. Gain this clue. Nicely done, Jenny. That will move over to her possession. And we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 clues, plus the 5 currently on the board. So if we can get Carolyn together with somebody to rest, we can probably, like I said, we can probably clear Carolyn's personal story this turn. But let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. Next card up from the Deck of Doom is a yellow card. All right, so we start off by advancing the Omen. We don't have any blue gates on the board, so nothing happens with Doom there. Then we have Reckonings, which happen in a specific order. Monsters, the Bayaki doesn't have a Reckoning. Ancient One, Azathoth has no Reckoning. Mythos cards, an Eldritch token comes off of the Rumor. And then Possessions and Conditions. We are all clear on that right now, which we wouldn't have been if I would have taken the Azure Flame with Jenny earlier in the round. So we are all clear on that. Then we spawn a gate. So our next gate is going to San Francisco, where Jenny left. And then we need a monster to go with that. We find a skeleton. Straight will, 2 successes to not lose sanity. Strength -2, 1 success to not lose health, 2 toughness to kill it. And if you defeat this monster during a combat encounter, recover 1 sanity. So that's all done, and now we have the card. Sitting down for a simple meal in a restaurant, it strikes you how alien the people around you seem. After everything you've seen and all the arcane secrets you have learned, can you truly think of yourself as one of them? The maitre d' asks you to please stop carving into the table with the knife. Well, considering the adventures these 4 have been on in my time in the Mythos, yeah, I'm not surprised they're wondering about that. Each investigator may discard any number of spells, then loses a sanity for each spell she has. Each investigator that lost sanity from this effect also gains a madness condition. Trish is all clear on that. Carolyn, Jenny is going to dump her Wither. And then Agnes is going to dump... The question is, do I care about Agnes... Do I care about Agnes taking a madness condition if I'm expecting her and Carolyn to meet up this round? And I think the answer to that is no. So, which spell do I want to keep, or do I want to keep both of them? Well, I don't like the idea of keeping both of them just because that's going to end up with 2 madness conditions. But I think I will have Agnes discard her... I'm having Agnes discard her Binding, because Storm of Spirits is really the only way we're defending ourselves right now. So Agnes will lose a sanity, but she'll also get a madness condition. And that will be Despair. Let's see, right here. Despair. When you perform a rest action, you cannot recover sanity, flip. And on a Reckoning, lose a sanity. That's going to be fun. We'll be able to get the tower out of the way in a second. We are in the investigation phase now. And if I'm going to sequence this, and I need to sequence this correctly. So in order to make this work, I think we need to daisy chain. I think we need to go Carolyn to Agnes, Agnes to Jenny. Trish is going to be off doing her own thing this round, so we will start with Carolyn. So let's move down to the 3 ladies over in the Western Hemisphere. Trying to get out of that without a word salad, it was quite the pain in the neck, but I think we managed that. So Carolyn is going to move for action 1 over to Arkham, and then action 2, she's going to component action on Agnes to let Agnes discard a madness condition and or rest. So she's going to discard a madness condition first. Agnes will discard Despair, and then she'll rest, going back up to full strength, because Carolyn lets investigators who rest on her space recover an additional sanity, so Agnes is at full strength. Then Carolyn's personal story triggers, so we will spawn a clue. Over on Space 17, which is down in India from the looks of it. And then if there's a total number of clues in investigator's possession and or the board equal to or greater than twice the investigators, we have 4 in possession. And there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the board. So that, last I checked, is greater than or equal to twice the number of investigators. So 10 clues total on the board and in possession against 8. Carolyn passes her personal story. So let's take a look at her reward. Missing Link, reward. When you gain this card, improve Lore and Will. Once per round, when another investigator on your space performs a rest action, gain a clue. Nice. Okay, so Carolyn will improve her Lore, which is how that looks. And then the Will flips into a +2. So Carolyn's all done for the round. Agnes will gain a ship ticket, and then she'll immediately spend it to go down and meet Jenny in Bogota. And then Jenny, for action 1, she'll trade Agnes the Arcanist and Randolph. I'm going all in on Agnes as being my best spellcaster. Agnes isn't going to pass anything the other way. Jenny will... Do we ever try to acquire the puzzle box and get an asset? I think I'd rather have that in Trish's hand when Trish can probably more reliably open the puzzle box. So I'll wait until I get the 2 of them closer together, but I will move Jenny into the Amazon. That'll continue working on Jenny's personal story as well. That's it for Jenny. Now let's move up to Trish up in Tunguska. Trish doesn't really have much to do until she finishes solving the mystery, so she's going to rest, going up to full strength, and then she'll take a resource. Resources can be used for additional successes during acquire assets, or additional health or sanity when you rest. Max of 2. That will do it for Trish. That'll do it for the action phase. Encounter phase, and once again, let's move back to the Western Hemisphere first for Carolyn, Agnes, and Jenny. And of course, we've got the dice tower and shot, which we're probably going to need. So Carolyn up first, she will have an Arkham encounter. Let's see what she's getting up to in Arkham this round. You try to gain access to an experiment at the university's science building. Influence -1. Carolyn's influence right now is a 4. -1 is a 3. Here's the lid. Carolyn doesn't have a focus, so she actually fails, which is very unfortunate. If you fail, you sneak in but get caught in the experiment. Gain a lost in time and space condition. Oh, great. Alright, the lost in time and space should be in this section of the binder. Here we are. Lost in time and space. Remove your investigator token from the game board. You are unaffected by other game effects and can't move or perform actions. Instead of performing an encounter, flip. We'll put that off to the side of the board there. Before we get into Agnes's encounter next, I already need to change my battery. Agnes is up next with a generic city encounter, so let's see what she's doing. The Syndicate is engaged in a gang war with local thugs and is under immense legal scrutiny. You try to trade your political clout for assistance, influence. I'd love to know what political clout... Well, I was going to say, I'd love to know what political clout a waitress has, but she's actually got an influence of 3. So maybe? Apparently a waitress does have some political clout. Who knew? If you pass, gain 1 service asset from the reserve or 1 random service asset from the deck. The only service asset in the reserve right now is Appeal to the Council, but that's not that good right now because we're still at full doom. So we'll grab a random service asset from the deck. We'll just take the first one we see. All right. And the asset Agnes gets is a Courier Run. When you gain this card, immediately gain a Courier Run unique asset, then discard this card. So we'll get a Courier Run out for Agnes. No, no, no. That should be in the binder. No. Come on, focus. No. 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 Courier Run I don't think is in the binder. I could be wrong, though. Treasure Map, Mythos Codex. Let me look. Like I said, there's a chance Courier Run is in the binder, but I didn't think it was. Nope, it is in the binder. I'm an idiot. Courier Run. When you gain this card from the deck, place one random clue that corresponds to a city space face up on this card. After resolving a location encounter on that space, flip. So let's see what clue, when we need a city space, Agnes finds. Let's see, first up, Himalayas, that's a wilderness space, so that won't work. Let's try this again. Space 21 right now is basically the ass end of nowhere for us, so, and also a wilderness space, so that won't work. Space 9, which is up in Greenland, the other end of nowhere, so that won't work either. Once it decides to focus. Space 1, however, is up in Juneau, Alaska. That's up here toward the top of the board, right, just a little bit north of San Francisco, but very accessible to Agnes, to the point where if I take a ship ticket, I could very easily go up there. But that's a thought for another round. Jenny is in the Amazon, though she's having a generic wilderness encounter there. The winds turn bitterly cold and a storm descends upon you before you can build a shelter. The ordeal pushes your endurance to the limit. Strength. I'm pretty sure Jenny's in the wrong part of the world for a bitterly cold storm, but I do have to remember that this is the Cthulhu mythos we're talking about, so anything's possible. Jenny's also got a strength of 3, which is enough to pass the test and avoid bad stuff. Just looking at the card. Jenny avoids bad stuff, and more importantly, the Amazon goes back in the clue bag, so we only have Antarctica left. So let's move over to Trish, who's hopefully going to solve the mystery this round. Trish has got 4 observation, 2 foci, and an extra clue that she can throw at this. There's no excuse we shouldn't clear this right now, Trish. Trish? Let's try this again. Come on, Trish. And we can spend a clue. We do have an extra clue that we can spend for 2 dice. Trish, we need to have a talk about your dice rolling. Because unfortunately she did fail that, and I can't spend another clue for another reroll, so we are going to fail that. That was not something I was hoping to see there. Unfortunately, that will do it for Trish. So now let's move back up top. We'll also do it for the encounter phase. Let's move back up top for the mythos phase. Draw a card from the deck of doom. Let's see what we've got here. Another yellow. Fun, fun. We advance the Omen. We do have 1 red gate on the board, so Doom advances by 1. Then we have Reckoning. So monsters, still no monster effects. Ancient One doesn't have one. Mythos cards. We take another Eldritch token off of Transported to the Hyades. And then Possessions and Conditions, which we have none of. Normally that Reckoning phase takes a month and a week. Then we spawn a gate. So our next gate is the Pyramids, and we need a monster to go with it. And we find a thrall. Straight will, need 2 successes to not lose sanity. Straight strength, 2 successes to not lose health, 2 toughness to kill it. And if you lose sanity from the will test, gain a corruption condition. Driven to madness. There was a time when you took comfort in the company of others, but no longer. You have sacrificed so much for them. Are the desperate masses even worth saving? Can the human race ever hope to earn its redemption? Driven to madness event. Each investigator may discard any number of ally assets, then loses 1 sanity for each ally asset she has. Each investigator that lost sanity from this effect also gains a madness condition. Let's see here. Trish is going to toss both of her allies because we don't need we got the clues from them, so we don't need them anymore, and they're not that useful anyway right now. Let's see. Carolyn has Henry Wilcox, but she can't be affected by other game effects, so she's unaffected by this one. Jenny doesn't have allies. Agnes has 3 allies, though. She's going to discard Morgan. Also gains a madness condition, so it's only the 1. Which Agnes will keep the Arcanist and Randolph, which will cost her 2 sanity, but it'll give her another madness condition. This time she's got hunger. Here we are, hunger. Hunger, madness. When you perform a rest action, you can't recover sanity, roll 1 die. On a 4, 5, or 6, aka a blessed success, discard this card. Reckoning, test will. If you fail, flip. Joy, joy. Okay. Going into the investigation phase next, and our first investigator, I think, will be... Morgan's gone, right? Our first investigator will be Jenny. Yeah, it'll be Jenny. So let's move down to the Amazon. I can get Jenny, Agnes, and both of their destinations in shot. So Jenny's action 1 is going to be to move on an uncharted path to Buenos Aires, and then she's going to get a ship ticket, so I can send her down to Antarctica to finish her personal story. As for Agnes, she's going to get a ship ticket, and then she's going to move up to Space 1 with the plan of completing her courier run. That's it for Jenny and Agnes. Next, let's move over to Trish. Trish and I had a little chat off camera about her dice rolling and how she plans to make it better. So action 1, she's going to take a focus. Action 2, she'll take her second resource and max out. That's it for Trish. Carolyn gets blown through because she's lost in time and space, so she doesn't get to perform any actions. That'll bring us out of the action phase and into the encounter phase. So let's move over and say hello first to Jenny. Jenny will be having a Buenos Aires encounter, so let's see what she's getting up to here. In an ancient underground chamber, you study strange scientific and magical paraphernalia once used by the Serpent Men, lore. After trading Randolph away to Agnes, Jenny's lore right now is 1. Jenny has... I don't know what it has been about Jenny in my time playing this game, but she's got something about these 1 lore tests. Not there, though, but she will spend a focus because I cheated and saw the reward. Nope. Never mind. Alright. If you fail, the device remains utterly alien, lose 2 sanity. Which that isn't that bad a penalty in the grand scheme of things. That puts her down to 3 sanity. She was at full. Agnes will have a generic city encounter up in Space 1, which will also flip her courier run once this is done. So let me reorganize some of these cards a little bit. And then we'll see what Agnes is getting up to. City. A rich heir wants someone to fulfill his father's dying wish. He will not trust anyone who does not come highly recommended. Influence. Well, Agnes comes highly recommended in waitressing at a diner and casting spells. Let's see if that translates here. It does not. And I don't think we're going to spend the focus. If you fail, his thugs treat you poorly. Gain a head injury condition. Ouch. So Agnes is sent... Apparently Agnes's courier run sent her into an ambush where somebody needed help, and instead she gets attacked. Actually, we had... Oh no, she got the hunger from the Mythos card. Never mind. Head injury. When you perform a rest action, you can't recover sanity, roll a die. On another blessed success, discard this card. The reckoning test here is strength. If you fail, flip. Very similar to hunger in that regard. But more importantly, it does flip Agnes's courier run. So let's see what she got knocked over the head for. Courier run. You infiltrate an abandoned warehouse where a number of robed figures are performing some ritual. You recognize them as the Order of the Death's Head and recite what you know of their mantra. Convinced of your allegiance to the Black Goat, the Brotherhood allows you to participate in the event. You watch carefully and remember vital information about a ritual that empowers the Black Goat. Advance the act of mystery by 1. Then discard this card. Totally worth getting knocked over the head. Because that is our second Eldritch token, and that will let us solve the act of mystery. So now we don't even need to have had that chat with Trish about her rolling, it turns out, because we will solve the act of mystery coming out of the Mythos phase. But before we get there, we need to move over to Tunguska and see what Trish is doing. Now that we no longer need to have an encounter for the mystery, Trish will have a generic wilderness encounter. The terrain ahead of you looks impassable, but going around would take too long. You'll need to find some way to move forward. Observation. So Trish has got an observation of 4, and she's got a focus that she can throw into this. Which she doesn't need. Apparently the chat I had with Trish about her dice rolling must have worked. If you pass, you discover a path, move 1 space. So which way do I want her to move right now? I think I want her to move... The problem is I don't know what our mystery is going to be yet, so I don't know what direction I want her to move in. But I think moving her toward a city is probably going to be a good thing here. So if I move the tower out of the way, which I'll put that over there because I will most likely need that, I could move her toward... I could start moving her toward Tokyo, or I could move her into the mess of clues. But again, without knowing what the mystery is coming up, I don't know what direction I best want to move her in. So I think... Either way, we can get access to this mess of clues. It'll just take me an extra turn to get there. Because I'll have to stop in Tokyo first, and then I can move space 20 to 17 to Istanbul, back to 16. So I guess the question is, which way do I want to access that loop from? And I think I want to access it... I think I want to access it now. So we're going to move into space 16. That way there's an option as well of taking a... I could potentially take an acquire assets action. As for Carolyn, she was lost in time and space, so her lost in time and space encounter is a dream quest. You wander the land of dreams for many ages. When it comes time to ascend, you struggle to recall your past self. Will -1. Carolyn's will right now is a 6, -1 is 5. So let's see what happens here. 2 successes, which means if you pass, place your investigator token on a space of your choice. When another investigator rests, gain a clue. Well, here's what I'm thinking about. So I know the next Mythos card is green, which means I'm going to have a 1-turn window if I want to try to stop the rumor. Because I do have a way to stop it. Jenny will tip the board down for a second at what I think Carolyn's likely destination is. Jenny is coming down to Antarctica and has a clue. So the idea here is if Jenny goes before Carolyn, Jenny will move down and then she can rest, which will give Carolyn the clue, and then Carolyn's turn would be to focus and take the other clue from Jenny. Jenny would deal with the location encounter on Antarctica. Actually, that just needs to be an encounter. So I don't think it really matters the order that I do this in. So there's even the theoretical possibility that I could have Jenny give Carolyn the clues. Because Carolyn's stats right now are probably a lot more decked out than Jenny's are right now. So, well, that's a ramble for another time. Either way, Carolyn's moving to Antarctica. I just need to figure out the order that everybody's going in. But once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. So given that how the Mythos deck was built, I know this card is a green, so let's find out what's here. Sure enough. Okay, so we will advance the Omen. Then we do have a blue gate in play, which right now is the Pyramid, so we advance Doom by 1. Then we have a Monster Surge, which puts 2 monsters on the Pyramids, which is our only blue gate in play. Which we have a Ghoul Priest, Straight Will, 1 success to not lose Sanity, Straight Strength, 2 successes to not lose Health. If you lose Health from the Strength test, gain a Paranoia condition. Reckoning, resolve the Reckoning effect of the Cultist as listed on the Ancient One sheet. And the Elder thing. Oh no, this has got spawn instructions, and I think I know what the spawn instructions are. Yep, Straight Will, 3 successes to not lose Sanity. Strength -1, 2 successes to not lose Health. 3 Toughness to kill it. And when this monster's spawned, move it to Antarctica. Blast it all! So that thing is guarding Antarctica now. Ah, confound it all. That thing's going to cause problems, but we do get to spawn clues out of this. Space 11 and Tunguska. Space 11 is down here by Jenny. Tunguska is up here where the mystery was. And then we have our actual event. You have pushed yourself through countless trials, always on the verge of breaking. With each passing day, you prepare yourself for the worst possible outcome. Prepared for anything, each investigator may gain a focus, spend a focus to gain a clue, or spend a clue to improve 1 skill of her choice. Let's see, looking in player order, Jenny's going to need her clue, so I'll give her a focus. Agnes can spend a focus to gain a clue, but I think she's going to gain a focus as well. Carolyn also can only gain a focus. And Trish is actually going to spend a clue What is that? A clue to improve a skill of her choice? Yes. Which I'm going to do that, and I'm kind of a little bit cheating because I know some of what's coming with Trish. So she will improve her lore. So we've got another +1 lore. Do I want to improve lore or do I want to improve observation? I think I'd rather improve observation. Alright, that's the end of the Mythos phase. We have solved our active mystery because there are 2 Eldritch tokens on Seed of the Daemon Sultan, which means Trish will clear her personal story. So we will see that. Breaking the limits. Gain +X to all skills where X is the number of foci you have. Once per round, when you spend a focus, you may gain a focus. So right now I've got 1 focus, but I suspect that's going to change very quickly. As for mysteries, we need the second mystery for Azathoth. So we'll give our mysteries a shuffle. And we'll see what we're doing here. So that's our second mystery, which means we will reveal occult research. The Shan are controlling innocent victims everywhere, using them to call forth Azathoth. After an investigator resolves a research encounter, she may spend 1 clue gained from that encounter and place that clue on this card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are clues on this card equal to the number of investigators, solve this mystery. So either way, we've got access to that loop of clues. Trish could probably work on that herself. We do have options in that regard, though, because I can potentially get some help to her with Agnes. Let's see, there was one other thing I needed to check for at the end of the round, I think. No, I think we're good here. So let's move into the investigation phase now, and our first player will be Agnes. So let's move down. Actually, probably good to stay at an up top shot because I can get Agnes's destination and her current starting position in shop. Good thing we're still up top because I just remembered Carolyn's Death 13 triggers, which means we retreat Doom by 1. Agnes's turn is going to be very simple. She will gain a ship ticket, and then she'll immediately move over to Tokyo. The idea is if I can defeat this Elder thing before Jenny and Carolyn go, then we can still deal with the rumor and solve the mystery this turn. Unfortunately, Carolyn's got no way to fight, so I think Jenny's going to have to go second on that note. So let's move down to Jenny. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a gamble. So for action 1, Jenny's going to move to Antarctica, spending her ship ticket. And then she's going to trade with Carolyn. How much sanity would that lose? 3? Yikes. Then she's going to trade with Carolyn. We're going to have to dodge a bullet on this one. So Jenny's actually going to keep the clue, and she's going to get another focus because we need Jenny to survive, but we also maybe need her to take out that Elder thing. As for Carolyn, who will be next, basically we're going to have to duck a Mythos card coming out we're going to have to duck a yellow coming this round. Carolyn will move over to Sydney to work on the expedition encounter, and she will gain a focus. And then tipping the camera. Actually, we don't need to tip the camera up. We've got Trish in shot. She will gain a focus, which will also be a +1 to all of her skills. And actually, she will take an acquire assets action with 5 influence. So let's bring the dice tower in shot. And then we do have the debt wipe available to us, which might be worthwhile to get the puzzle box to our best observation character. Well, we can spend a resource for a guaranteed success, then use the debt wipe, and we will get the puzzle box over to Trish. So now let's see what resource or what asset comes up next. We find an enchanted dagger for 1. Item, magical weapon. Gain +2 strength during combat encounters. That will do it for Trish. That'll do it for the action phase. The encounter phase next, and let's move over to Agnes over in Tokyo. We'll have our first look at Asia encounters all game, so let's see what Agnes is getting up to in Tokyo. Yoshiko Kawashima offers you her help. Gain 1 random service asset from the deck. So we'll pull from this one. And the first service asset we see. That one. All right. Oh, hang on. We got to reveal the service asset first. We find police assistance. When you gain this card, immediately discard 1 monster of your choice on any space with toughness 2 or less, then discard. I think that should be everything except the Elder thing. Yep, that's everything except the Elder thing, so I think we're going to discard... I think we're going to discard the Bayaki. And there's more. In return, you tell her your story. Influence -1. I saw the reward, and Agnes, you had better pass this. With an influence of 2. Well, 3 minus 1 is 2. Spending a focus. There's a reason I'm doing this. Okay, perfect. So that worked. If you pass, she fights for you. 1 monster of your choice loses 3 health. No bonus points for which monster that I'm going to tell to F off. Bye-bye, Elder thing. Which means now we need to duck our Mythos card. That's it for Agnes. Now let's move down to Jenny in Antarctica. The Elder thing chased Carolyn off to Sydney, but now that it's gone, Jenny can have a generic sea encounter. So let's find out what happens there. You find the floating detritus of some sunken ship and search for any survivors or salvageable objectives. Observation. If you pass... Well, let's not talk about the pass yet. Jenny has an observation of 3. Two successes. Nicely done, Jenny. If you pass, you discover a floating trunk. Gain 1 artifact. You can read the fail there, but I wouldn't have minded the fail too much either here. Jenny's artifact. Sword of St. Jerome. Oh, wow. Gain +2 will and +5 strength during combat encounters. If you defeat a monster during a combat encounter, recover 1 sanity. So, very nice job there, Jenny. Most importantly, her personal story's finished, so now we can see what Isabel is all about. So Jenny had to chase Isabel into San Francisco, then the Amazon, and finally she finds Isabel in Antarctica. When you gain this card, improve observation and will. When another investigator accepts a bank loan as part of an acquire assets action, that investigator adds 1 additional success to the test result. So we now start with, investigators, so the debt wipe is now worth 3 successes. So Jenny improves, what was it? Observation and will. So observation goes to a 4. as does her will, which is going to be very stacked thanks to the Sword of St. Jerome. So very nicely done there, Jenny. Carolyn is up next. She's having an expedition encounter with Sydney, and the expedition is moving over to the Amazon. So let's see what Carolyn's getting up to. A group of Aborigines are planning a journey to Uluru. Once there, they will speak to the ancient spirits known as the Jakurpa about the doom that threatens the world. You carefully follow them, trying to stay hidden. Observation. Carolyn's observation is not great at 2, but she's got 2 foci. I want the 5 and the 6 on this one. I will spend the foci. I will spend a focus. 1. Hopefully I don't need both. I do not. The journey is difficult, requiring both strength and stamina. Improve strength. So now we get to take our first look at the strength improvement tokens. I think we've looked at every other one. Carolyn's turning into a badass. Maybe I should give her the Sword of St. Jerome. But of course, there's more. One of the spirits speaks to you. Influence -1. Carolyn, pass this, please. Apparently, saying please is all you need. If you pass, the spirit grants you its wisdom. Advance the active mystery by 1. Very nice work, Carolyn. I know strength isn't your thing, but I'm glad you were willing to sacrifice making yourself a little bit stronger in order to help us out. Anyway, that's it for Carolyn. Now let's move over to Trish. Trish is going to have a research encounter trying to get that clue, so let's see what she's getting up to. That's a city. Doctors ask you to observe a trephination. They pull away a piece of his skull and you examine the brain. Observation. Okay. Her observation is 5 plus 2 foci is 7. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay. Trish, well, let's not say anything, Phoenix. But we got a whole mess of successes, so never mind. Come on. If you pass, you spot an insect-like creature. Gain this clue and 1 additional clue. So that clue will go on the mystery, and we'll get another clue for Trish. Alright, so that's an additional clue going over to Trish. Alright, that's it for the encounter phase. Let's move back up top for the mythos phase. I've got the dice tower in shot, but I'm hoping to God I don't need it, because if I don't need it, then I think my bigger priority right now is solving the transporter to the Hyades rumor. Let's find out what we're doing, though. We are solving that next round, but we've got another rumor coming up. So we spawned 2 more clues. Hopefully well, actually, we might be able to solve the mystery this round. But let's see what we're getting up to. Sydney and Buenos Aires, so we definitely have options. And then we're going to have another rumor going to Space 14. Whoop. We don't want the mystery yet, but we can get That, and we'll need 3 Eldritch tokens for this. As the boundary between worlds weakens, you hope to commune with the powers that rule the shadowy realm where the dead reside and restore the walls between our realities. Doorways to Tuonela. Ongoing rumor. As an encounter, an investigator on space 14 may look for Tuonela. Observation. If she passes, she may spend clues equal to the number of investigators to solve this rumor. When there are no Eldritch tokens on this card, discard each gate on the game board and spawn a gate for each gate discarded this way. Each investigator on a space containing a gate gains a lost in time and space condition, then solve this rumor. On a reckoning, randomize the gate stack and discard 1 Eldritch token from this card. So we'll get 3 Eldritch tokens for that. That is done. So we have ducked the transport, we have ducked the yellow card. So now I think our next order of business is going to be solving the transporter to the Hyades rumor, because I'd rather not get our team devastated right now. So in order to do that, I also want to try to solve the second mystery if I can this round. We should be able to achieve both of those. So let's move into the action phase, and we'll start off with Agnes. So let's move over to Tokyo. I think Agnes and Trish are going to be 1-2. So Agnes will... I think Agnes will... do I want to rest? Actually, I kind of do want to rest, so I can try to get rid of these hunger and head injury conditions. So we'll rest. We can't recover sanity, but on a 4, 5, or 6, we can discard those. So we'll roll... I'm going to roll green for the head injury, black for hunger. I need 4, 5, or 6 on both of these to get rid of them. Let's see, that's a 5 on the black, so the hunger is gone, but the head injury stays, which is rather unfortunate, so we will have to deal with one of those during the next reckoning. Let's see, hunger's down here. And then for action 2, Agnes will move down to space 20 with the idea of trying to solve that mystery. As for Trish, she's going to move to Istanbul, and I'm going to try to open this puzzle box. I think I am. I was either going to do that or grab a train ticket, but I think let's try to open this puzzle box so we can maybe get another good artifact. Trish is probably our best bet to open this thing, so she's got 7 observation right now, minus 2 is 5. Trish will open the puzzle box with a 5, and she will find Livre Divon. Action, test lore minus 1. If you pass, you may spend 1 sanity to move to any space of your choice. Oh, wow. If I can pass that off to somebody with high lore like Agnes, we could easily zip her around the board, but I definitely need to get Agnes's sanity back up. That will do it for Trish. Let's move down to Carolyn and Jenny who are going to both end up in Antarctica. The question here is well, I know I want both Carolyn and Jenny to end up in Antarctica this round. The question is, what order do I want them to end up in Antarctica in? And I think I want Carolyn to end up there first. So she's going to move to Antarctica for action 1. And action 2, she will take a focus. She's only down 1 health right now, whereas Jenny's down considerably more than that. So that 2 should be on Trish. Jenny will take a rest action, which will give Carolyn a clue. It'll also give Jenny a health and 2 sanity. So Carolyn will end up with the clue, but action 2 will be a trade action where Jenny will pick up... Actually, Jenny will Jenny will take the clue herself. Carolyn can probably deal with most any encounter that comes her way down in Antarctica, and we've got time before the mythos phase becomes a problem. So that will do it for Jenny and Carolyn. That'll do it for the action phase. Encounter phase next, and let's go say hello to Agnes and Trish. Let's see if we can speed through this second mystery. Agnes is up first on a city space, and we will find... You scour countless tomes for a way to keep Azathoth at bay, but they only confirm your worst fears. Advance the omen by 1, which will advance doom by 2. One for the Eldritch token, and 1 because we have San Francisco out as a gate. Your only hope is a text that suggests truth can be found in madness. You may spend 2 sanity to gain this clue. That would put Agnes at 1 sanity right now. That would put Agnes at 1 sanity when she already can't recover sanity. That seems like a very bad idea to me. But if I think I can get rid of that head injury... The question is, do I think I'm more likely to be losing health or sanity from that? I think I'm probably more likely to lose health from that. But I need to be able to flip it. But I need to flip it to find out. I think it's probably still worth it to go down to 1 sanity to get the clue that'll put that on the mystery. It's a bit of a risk because if Agnes is eliminated, she's eliminated from the Summer of Lovecraft. So I'm gambling on that, but I think it's worth it to try to get the mystery solved as fast as possible. Trish will also be looking for a clue in Istanbul. She will find... You are contacted by a man who claims to be an occult researcher. The man seems almost too willing to exchange information with you. Influence. Trish's influence right now is 5, so we can leave these dice in there. And there's a success in there. If you pass, his notes are illuminating, but he reports your findings to the Cult of the Green Flame. Gain this clue and place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track. So we do get the clue, which means we'll solve the mystery, but we will be putting a second Eldritch token on the green space. The only fortunate thing here is that we're on green right now, so we'll be advancing that. So we'll be advancing off of that. That will do it for Agnes and Trish. Let's move down to Antarctica with Jenny and Carolyn. Right before I turned the camera back on, I was looking at the encounter again for the rumor, and I was like, wait a second, that's an observation test, but now I'm realizing, like, no, I've actually got the clues where I want them, because observation is the one stat Carolyn hasn't improved yet. But let's see what she is doing at sea. The ship ahead of you seemed abandoned, but now that you see that it is crewed entirely by ghostly figures, you try to discern what ship this had once been and what happened to it. Lore. Carolyn's lore right now is 3, and she's got 2 foci. Which I will spend a focus. Spending my other focus to pass. So it cost me both my foci, but if I pass, the spectral captain grants me aid. I either gain a clue or improve will. Carolyn's will is already improved by +2, so that'll be a clue she gains. Which will be that clue, that's fine. And then Jenny is going to try to deal with the rumor. So that's observation -1. 4 minus 1 is 3, and Jenny's got 2 foci. Let's have this, Jenny. I don't want this rumor going off, especially now that I brought Agnes down to 1 sanity. Perfect. So she spends clues equal to half the investigators, which is 2. And this rumor can get bent, which is exactly what I wanted to see out of that. So that will do it for Carolyn and Jenny. That'll do it for the encounter phase. Let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. Dice Tower's in shot in case we need it, but let's hope we don't. Flipping this into a yellow, so we do need that in shot. Advancing the Omen to blue, we have the Pyramids as our only blue gate, so Doom advances to 11. Then we have Reckoning. Monsters, cultists don't have a Reckoning with Azathoth. Ancient One, Azathoth doesn't have a Reckoning. Mythos cards, Agnes has got to test Strength to try to avoid flipping her head injury. She will spend her focus to flip her head injury. This is not good. She's the only Reckoning, so let's see what happens here. You find yourself lying on the ground, unable to recall how you got there. Trying to remember what happened only causes your head to hurt more. Lose 1 health and gain an amnesia condition, then discard this card. Uh-oh. Well, on the bright side, Agnes now should be able to gain sanity again. Let's gain an amnesia condition. Amnesia. When you perform a rest action, you may roll 1 die. On a 5 or 6, discard this card. Reckoning, test will. If you fail, flip. And Agnes, I think, was the only one with... Oh, Mythos card. We would randomize the gate stack. We'll randomize the gate stack and take an Eldritch token off of the rumor. Oop. Wait, did I have a... No, never mind. I was just checking to see if somehow I had a gate flipped in the gate stack, but I don't. Alright, we'll do that. Alright, so Mythos cards, possessions, and conditions. Agnes was the only one with a Reckoning, but now we've got an amnesia that we've got to get rid of. And then we spawn a gate. So we spawn at Sydney, oh joy. And going with it... we have a Hunting Horror, which has a Reckoning. Will -1, 3 successes to not lose sanity. Straight Strength, 2 successes to not lose health. 3 toughness to kill it, and Reckoning. Move this monster to the nearest space containing an investigator. Then an investigator on that space immediately encounters it. Move it to the nearest space. Okay. Joy. Alright, that was the gate. Fear has driven you to cling to anything that might keep you safe, and now those things are the very weapons your enemies will use against you. Weight of Avarice. Each investigator discards half of her item possessions, then she loses 1 health for each item possession she has. Let's see, Agnes has 1 item, which is her Profane Tome. She'll discard that, and then nothing there. Trish has, half. Let's discard the 45 automatic, and she'll lose 1 health. I would much rather keep the Leave Devon. Jenny, let's see, actually, Carolyn has her Dream Diary. She'll discard that. And then Jenny will discard the 25 automatic and lose 1 health. Okay, that could have been a lot worse. But what's in much better news is we've solved our second mystery. I'll get the dice tower out of shot. I will actually remember to retreat Doom by 1 before I reveal the last mystery of the game. Hopefully we can fly through this so I can get moving on making the video. Anyway, for our third and final mystery in the game, let's see what we're up against here. That is our last mystery for the game. So now we reveal the Green Flame. In response to the cult's invocation, a jet of green flame emerged from the fissure, racing across the ceiling and walls as if it were a living thing. When this card enters play, spawn the Tulska Epic Monster on a random space. And at the end of the Mythos phase, if the Tulska epic monster has been defeated, solve this mystery. So let's see where it's going. Let's actually find the epic monster first. We'll analyze it, then we'll place it. And I see it's got a reckoning already. This is going to be fun. Alright, so here's Tulska. Will -1. Need 3 successes to not lose sanity. Strength -1, 3 successes to not lose health. Reckoning, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track. Toughness is equal to Investigators +2, so 6 health. Let's see where it's going as I go to my spreadsheet. I know you're technically supposed to do this via clues, but I find it's easier to just do it with my group of spreadsheets. Let's see, so calculate. This is going to Shanghai. Okay, so let me translate loosely what that mystery actually is really saying. Get as many investigators as you can to Tokyo and work that thing down. At least that's what I'm kind of hearing out of that. Anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Action phase, and I think we'll move over to Agnes first. We'll move down to Agnes. We're going to bring the dice tower in shot because Agnes is going to be resting once she gets to Tokyo. Action 1, she'll move up to Tokyo, and Action 2, she'll take her aforementioned rest. I want to try to get rid of some of this sanity. That's a 5 or 6. We need to discard amnesia. That's a 3, so Agnes still has amnesia. Trish will be up next. So for Action 1, she's going to use the Leave Devon to try to move straight to Tokyo. So that's a lore -1. 3 -1 is 2. So let's see if we can get Trish to Tokyo as well. There's a 6, so Trish will spend a sanity to get to Tokyo, where she'll say hi to Agnes. And then for Action 2, Trish will rest that right back. So Trish is all done there. And now let's move down to Jenny and Carolyn, who are down in Antarctica. Actually, I could have gotten everybody in shot here. So Jenny will be Investigator 3. She is going to move into Sydney. And then she's going to take a ship. Which ticket do I need to get her up to? Shanghai ship ticket. Hopefully we won't end up needing that, but that'll be our backup plan. And then for Carolyn, she will be number 4 here. What do I want her to do? She's going to take a focus. And I'm going to gamble that Jenny will have already dealt with the hunting horror by the time we get to Carolyn's turn. So I can send Carolyn into the gate. Because we are moving to red, and we've got 2 red gates out right now. It's buried under the tower, but we do have the Himalayas out. That's a red gate as well. So that's it for Carolyn. That's it for the action phase. Encounter phase next, and let's start with Agnes up in Tokyo. Agnes is having a Tokyo encounter first, so she will find. Spies are sabotaging Tanaka Gichi's political career. The more you protect him, the more he helps you. Influence +2. Choose 1. Discard a monster of your choice with toughness equal to or less than your test result, or gain 1 random service asset from the deck. So influence +2 for Agnes is 3, +2 is 5. And remember, we can't use the discard on epic monsters. Not that we'd be able to anyway. Not that we'd be able to get enough successes to discard it anyway. So let's see how Agnes does on this test. Let's see, that's a 1. So I think we're going to gain a random service asset from the deck because she doesn't have a focus. And I don't think it's worth trying to discard or trying to gain another focus anyways. Or trying to get more results anyway. So our first service is right at the bottom. and it's Consecration. When you gain this card, immediately gain a boon condition, then discard. So let's see what Agnes ends up with for a boon. Let's see. Agnes is blessed. What a time for that to come up, which is, of course, right here. Blessed. 4s, 5s, and 6s count as successes on your test. If you would gain another blessed condition, flip this card instead, and it has to say blessed when you gain the card. If you would gain a cursed condition, discard this card instead. Reckoning, roll 1 die. On a 1 or a 2, discard this card. That goes to Agnes, not back to the Supply Phoenix. What is coming out next, however, is another Tokyo encounter for Trish. She will find Yuzuru Hiraga has engineered a fleet of ships to fight unnatural horrors. If you can navigate the naval bureaucracy to reach him, he will help. You may spend 1 focus to choose 1 monster on any space. The chosen monster loses 2 health. Trish will spend and gain the focus to knock 2 health off of Tulska, our epic monster. So there is our 2 health going on Tulska. And then Jenny is going to fight the hunting horror. So she will start off with a will -1 test, which her will is 4 -1 is 3. I want that 6. Now that Jenny is back up to at least full sanity. We need 3 successes to not lose sanity. Which that's... Wait, that was a will -1, so I'm going to re-roll that. Alright, still 2 successes, so Jenny loses 1 sanity, which is not the end of the world. Then straight strength, 2 successes to not lose health. Jenny right now has a 3 plus 5 is 8. Straight strength. And we need 2 successes to not lose health, 3 to kill it. So let's see if our gamble is going to pay off, and we'll be able to put Carolyn potentially in the gate this turn. Let's see, 1 success is not going to put Carolyn in the gate, so let's spend a focus. If we get another success, I'll spend another focus, but if we don't, Carolyn's going to be stuck. Alright, there is another success in there, so I'll spend another focus from Jenny to see if we can take this thing out. Oop. We can. Nicely done, Jenny. So that goes back to the monster bag. And then Jenny will have a Sydney encounter. Jenny will find an imprisoned fortune teller bribes you with a curious gift to help secure her freedom. Gain the Ace of Swords unique asset. Okay, let's go find the Ace of Swords unique asset. Here we go. Ooh, I like this. Ooh. The Ace of Swords. When you gain this card from the deck, improve strength. Whenever you roll a 1 during a strength test as part of a combat encounter, you may re-roll that die. So Jenny gets a strength +1 token. And the card, but of course, there's more, kids. You work around the clock with little rest to get her released. Oop, let's let that focus. You work around the clock with little rest to get her released. Will. Jenny's will right now is 4. Give me the 3 successes. We'll get everything else out. And we've got enough successes. We just avoid bad stuff. All right, and then Carolyn we'll see about closing that gate. I mean, it's only another doom, but still. We'll see what we can do here. Unknown Kadath. The castle of the Ancient Ones seems abandoned save for a lone Shantak resting in the center of an onyx courtyard. An insidious whisper urges you to mount the bizarre steed and fly to some unknown cosmic destination. Will -1. Carolyn is at a 6, -1 is 5. I want all these successes. And we get enough successes there. You mount the Shantak, but do not heed the voice in your head. Instead, you return safely to Earth. Close this gate. Bye-bye, Sydney. Once home, you recite a word to silence the whispering voice. Lore. Carolyn's lore right now is 3, and I want these successes once again. Success, and we avoid bad stuff. So a pretty good turn there, I would say. With that, let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. Card from the Deck of Doom says... Green. Okay. Alright, so we started by advancing the Omen. We'll advance Doom by 1 because we have the Himalayas out. Then we have a Monster Surge there. Which will end up with, first up is a Dole, which has a Reckoning. Will -1, 3 successes to not lose health. 3 successes to not lose sanity. Strength -2, 3 successes to not lose health. 5 toughness to kill it. And on a Reckoning, move this monster 1 space toward the nearest investigator. Then each investigator on this or an adjacent space loses 1 health and 1 sanity. And a Young Chthonian, which has spawn instructions. Oh joy. Will -1, 2 successes to not lose sanity. Strength -1, 2 successes to not lose health. 3 toughness to kill it. And when this monster is spawned, each investigator on this or an adjacent space loses 1 and 1. So, joke's on you, buddy. Nothing happening to us, because the Himalayas is 2 spaces away from Tokyo. And then we spawn 2 clues. Right. Space 1 and Istanbul. And then we have the event. The threat of these ancient evils is not limited to forsaken temples and the world's uncharted depths. You see it now in every corner market. At every level of commerce, cruelty and deception have taken root. Corrupted business, ongoing. When this card enters play, discard each asset from the reserve with value 2 or less. When an investigator performs an acquire assets action, she may gain an agreement condition to gain 4 successes to the test result. Reckoning, each investigator loses 2 sanity for each deal condition she has, then discard this card. So the Enchanted Dagger, the Appeal to the Council, and the Holy Grail are gone. And we replace those. First up with a Mauser C96. Gain +2 strength during combat encounters, and you may reroll 1 die when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter. Next up, Secret Page for 2. Gain +1 lore when resolving spell effects. When you gain this card from the deck or reserve, gain a spell. And a Tommy Gun for 3. Gain +4 strength during combat encounters. Alright, so that's all replaced in the reserve. into the action phase, we might actually be able to win the game this round. So let's move down to... Actually, we'll probably leave the order as is, but we're going to switch Jenny and Carolyn. So let's move down. Let's actually move down, and we'll start with Agnes in Tokyo. Agnes will start off by getting a focus and resting. So she has to roll to see if she can get rid of this amnesia. I should have left the tower in shot. We can put it... Let me tip the camera just a touch right there. All right, and we need a 5 or a 6 to get rid of amnesia. Which that's a 1, so Agnes still has amnesia. She still doesn't know how she got onto the ground. That's it for Agnes. Trish really doesn't have much she wants to do right now, so I think she will actually just acquire assets here with an influence of 5. The debt wipe is worth 3 successes to Trish, and I'm tempted for the Tommy gun just in case we need to send her in to Shanghai. But I don't think we do. We have 1 success, which I'll spend a resource to get her to 2. And then I will take the debt wipe to get her to 5, which will be the Tommy gun and the Mauser. I'll plan on handing weapons out with Trish if I need to. And then we'll replace in the reserve, we will find an axe for 2, gain +2 strength during combat encounters, and you may spend 2 sanity to reroll any number of dice when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter. And a blunderbuss. When resolving a combat encounter, you may gain +2 strength. If you do, each 6 you roll when resolving a strength test result counts as 2 successes, and each 1 negates 1. So that's it for Trish. Carolyn will get a ship ticket, and then she'll immediately spend it to go join Agnes and Trish in Tokyo. Jenny, with her last action, will take a focus, and she'll move into Shanghai just in case Agnes, Trish, and Carolyn aren't able to kill Tulska. But we've got 3 encounters and 4 health, so I'm hoping that won't be a problem. Anyway, that's it for the action phase. Now let's move into the encounter phase and see if we can finish Tulska off. Three Tokyo encounters. Let's see what Agnes is doing first. A Shizoku with Typhoid offers you a deal. Gain 1 random service asset from the deck. Okay. We'll take from here. We need a service asset. One that I'm absolutely not touching. Agnes gets a private flight for 2. When you gain this card, immediately move to any space of your choice, then discard, except she's going to stay put. There's more. You help care for him as he recovers, but risk being infected yourself. Strength -1. Agnes's strength is a 2, -1 is a 1. The only consolation there, though, is that she's blessed. Which she will spend a focus. Uh-oh. To fail. If you fail, you get sick. Lose 1 health. That could have been worse. Agnes is actually at full health right now. Moving over to Trish next. Yep, Trish is number 2. Alright. You track down a shrine to the Yato no Kami, the gods who rule over snakes. You implore them to help you. Influence -2. Oh, joy. Trish's influence, though, is 5. -2 is 3. Remember, we have our two foci, which is how we're getting our skills boosted. Gross. Alright, well, we're going to start off with spending clues, which let us reroll 2 of these dice. Spending our other clue to reroll 2 dice again. Spending and gaining a focus. You've got to be kidding me, Trish. We had a chat about this earlier. Spending a focus. Spending her other focus. Is Jenny going to have to be the hero here? It's sure looking that way. If you fail, your presumptuous request earns you a snake bite. Gain a poisoned condition. Trish and I are going to have a chat off camera about her dice rolling because I thought we had that straightened out, Trish. Poisoned. When you perform a rest action, you can't recover health or sanity. Flip. Reckoning, lose 1 health. Carolyn is also in Tokyo. Let's see what she's getting up to. The Double Leaf Society deploys armed men to help you. A monster of your choice loses 2 health. Well, at least Carolyn can get a good result out of this. But, of course, there's more. In return, they want money, influence. Of course they do, and why are they asking a psychologist for that? 4 dice. There's a success. If you pass, you offer plenty. Gain a random service asset from the deck. We'll go from here. Service asset's what we're looking for. Which is, well, not entirely useless. Just mostly, well, not really, actually, now that I'm looking at it. So I think Jenny will probably need all the rerolls she can get her hands on here. Wireless report. When you gain this card, immediately give any number of clues to another investigator on any space, then discard. She will give her clue to Jenny, because I want Jenny to have as many rerolls as I can at trying to kill Tulska. Which we're headed into now. So will -1. Jenny has a 4 plus 2 is 6, minus 1 is 5. And we need 3 successes to not lose sanity. This won't drive Jenny insane no matter how we do it. That's 1 success, and I'd rather have the... So we'll lose 2 sanity. I'd rather have the reroll trying to kill this thing. Right, so now we're looking at a strength test, which is 4 plus 5 is 9. Minus 1 is 8. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. We need 2 successes to take this thing, to take Tulska out, 3 to not take damage. Jenny is going to have to be the heroine of this adventure. Which she will do easily with 3 successes. Not lose health, and Tulska go bye-bye. Alright, then Jenny gets to have another encounter, because why not? She will have a Shanghai encounter, because we haven't encountered Shanghai yet this game. The Royal Asiatic Society caught you taking a look. You try to explain, influence -1. Well, we've definitely got the right lady taking on an influence test. Actually, really, any of our ladies would probably be wouldn't be total garbage at an influence test. Jenny's a 4 - 1 is a 3. And she passes. If you pass, the society members let you go with a warning. Gain 1 tome artifact. Tome artifact. There we go. Actually, I'm surprised we didn't need that. Actually, Jenny should have recovered a sanity from defeating that with the Sword of St. Jerome. Jenny finds the Massa di Requiem per Shuge, item tome, action test lore -1. If you pass, you may spend 1 sanity to discard a monster on a space of your choice containing a gate. Reckoning, roll a die. On a 1, advance doom by 1. Well, that probably would have been a lot more useful, but we are all done here. So now let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. As long as the Mythos phase doesn't go completely nutso cuckoo on us, we should have the win locked up for the first leg of the Summer of Lovecraft. Let's see what the Mythos card does. It's a green. Okay. So we start by advancing the Omen. We have 1 blue gate in play right now, so Doom advances by 1. Then we have a Monster Surge, but it's not really going to matter there. We'll just pull 2 monsters. I'm not going to bother going through them, though. The Poltergeist, actually, I will. The lead investigator gains a Bane condition. The lead investigator is Agnes. So the Bane she gains. She's haunted, but we're not going to have that for long. So I'm going through this by the book, but it really isn't going to matter in the grand scheme of things. Then we spawn 2 clues, because why not? Right, space 16 and 14, which are right next to each other. Not that they really need to be. Okay. Looking in the mirror, you see what this quest has cost you. These terrors and struggles have aged you unnaturally. Your body is not as strong as it once was. Your mind is not quite as quick as it used to be. Time catches up, ongoing. When this card enters play, each investigator impairs 1 skill of her choice. Reckoning, the lead investigator impairs 3 skills of her choice, then discard this card. So looking at our situation, Agnes would probably impair observation, Carolyn would impair strength, Trish would impair observation, and Jenny would impair strength. Actually, Jenny would impair, strength. Not that it really matters, because as we can see, we've got our 3 mysteries solved here, because Jenny took out Tulska in the last encounter of the round. So we have our 3 mysteries solved, and we have won the first leg of the Summer of Lovecraft. So when we go into Arkham Horror 2nd Edition next week, the ladies will start with an extra item. Before that, though, we have our first Call of Cthulhu adventure on Wednesday as we're back to our normal night, as we find ourselves alone against the flames. Then Saturday, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Ticket to Ride official cookbook with the side, Wild Berry Salad. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.